Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Laguna Beach, California, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to California. It's Q&A day. It's Sleep-In Saturday. This is the day of the week where we do questions and answers that people write in. If you want to write in a question, you can. You just write to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and Miss Mara will happily,
Joyfully.
joyfully, blissfully knit you a scarf and keep order of all the questions. And then when Saturday comes around, we read your questions and we try our best to answer them. I'm
In the dark.
I'm feeling it this morning, because I had a program last night at Veda Yoga Center in Culver City. We did Ram Leela and Kirtan with our good friend Kumi from LA. Yeah, it was great. And Shamali from Modern Yogi Podcasts.
Cool.
You're hanging.
Were there other modern yogi podcasters there, or just
Those guys? The other two are away, but it was a really wonderful group of people.
Great.
And but everybody ended up talking late, and then we went out for some, it's safe to say, tasty vegan junk food.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't get back to Laguna till like almost 1 a.m.
Well, snap out of it, guy. You're on the show now. I'm not sympathizing.
I'm here. I'm present.
All right.
But it was getting real tired at the wheel driving. I can't.
No,
do
that's
this.
not good, right?
That's not good. I was slapping myself, hitting myself, punching myself.
That's not good.
Give myself some abhyanga while driving.
Especially there in California, the traffic is like hard to navigate.
God, I forgot what it's like. I'm used to country bumpkin driving. I just have to dodge like deer and raccoons. You got like people driving so fast, weaving in and out of 9 lanes.
Yeah, so many lanes over there.
So many lanes. Anyway, all right. So, Miss Mara,
Yes.
do you have any announcements for us?
Yeah, we have back to recovery group meetings at 9:30 and 12:30 today.
Ooh.
And a shloka memorization group with Nitin and Chandra is at 10 a.m.
Nice.
And we should also mention there's no show on Monday, and Tuesday's show will also be at 8 a.m.
But there is a show tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And we nailed down the dates, right? We still haven't got it up on our website, but we nailed down the dates for our autumn retreat at Super Soul Farm.
Yes.
Right.
Autumn retreats. It's going to be a
weekend thing.
A Friday through a Monday till our Monday brunch, which I'm looking forward to that. What are the dates of that? Columbus Day weekend?
October 6th through 9th.
October 6th through 9th.
Yeah.
Okay. But they can't really register, can they, unless we get that link?
Not yet.
Is that correct?
Not yet.
Not yet,
okay.
but coming soon.
Yeah, coming very soon.
Maybe you should just think about it. Think about it.
Save the date.
Save the date. We're doing Sweet Baby Krishna every day. We have lots of kirtan.
And it's a beautiful time to visit the
Autumn foliage.
Yeah, the autumn foliage is peak season that time.
It is. It's great.
All right.
All right.
So we got questions to answer, Raghunath.
Oh yeah, and another thing we just want to say, tomorrow we have a great interview with Crispian Mills
Crispy
from
Mills.
Kula Shaker.
Cool Shaker.
Kula Shaker. We're one of these great bands from the 90s. Big influential band, traveled all over. I met them back in the day. They came to a Shelter show, and I went to a Kula Shaker show in New York, and they showed up in London. So we were sort of old buddies, and we got to reconnect on the phone yesterday.
Nice.
So tomorrow we are diving into a little interview.
It kind of
All
had
right.
like a bit of a psychedelic kind of feel to them, didn't they?
Yeah, they were a lot cooler than I was. They're sort of like dressed cooler.
Got to get like a paisley shirt and like
Paisley,
little
like a cool organ.
red rectangular glasses or something like that. That kind of thing, you know. Go for that psychedelic 60s thing.
It did have like a psychedelic thing to it. Brit pop.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
All right. Miss Mara,
am I reading or are you reading?
Why don't you read? I'm like delicately balancing this computer on my knee, sitting in a bucket seat. I gotta leave this up to you.
All right, I got it. So this is coming from our friend, Ashley Rodriguez from Texas.
Right. She's been on the show a lot of times.
Yeah, we used to talk a lot about Ashley because she went through so many challenges in our first year, right?
Her very first year challenges. One of these things that we talk about that people are still writing me about. When Ann Watson was on the show the other day.
Yeah.
Just when people's darkest times. How do you put this? Sometimes they see a lot of light through those darkest times, or they're forced to take shelter of Krishna in these darkest times, and they come out like quite amazing. And so Ashley went through such a hard time at the very beginning with her husband getting in a horrific motorcycle accident.
Yeah, and she was out of the hospital
and she was pregnant, and she already had 2 little children. It was like
two kids. She was pregnant.
We were like following it day by day. It was like on the edge of our seats in prayer. But here she is. I don't think she's completely out of the fire yet, but she seems like one of these enlightened souls because of it all.
Okay.
You want to read it?
Yeah. So she says, "Hello, dear friends. I'm wondering why sometimes it's easier to maintain spiritual connection. I can do the same practice. One time feeling such deep connection to Krishna. It's such a gift. But at other times, feeling very little connection. Sometimes remembering to offer my food, which is a bhakti ritual, right? We don't eat before offering it. And at other times, it doesn't even cross my mind. After speaking with other devotees, I found this fluctuation to be a common part of the bhakti journey. I wonder why. Why, after experiencing a deep connection with Krishna, does that connection and awareness not just stay open? Also, thank you for, here you go. Also, thank you for the walk on Wednesday this week. Wow, Anne's story is incredible. And her perspective is so very inspiring. With endless love and gratitude, Ashley Rodriguez.
We see our stories so much and develop appreciation by hearing other people's stories. If you haven't listened to Wednesday's show, go check it out with Ann Watson. Okay, Kostuba, this is a great question. You know what immediately I think Krishna's he's sneaky. Krishna baits us. He baits us to, move forward, grab the bait. We get some taste of the bait. And then he disappears. It's like, and we're like, what just happened? And then we see, there's bait there further down. We just got to go farther down this rabbit hole. And then he baits us, we go there again. It's always like leaving trails of breadcrumbs for us to follow. And sometimes we don't see any around. It keeps us like looking, wondering, looking at the sky, throwing our hands up in the air. And then we see again another clue. And we move forward and we take that bait again. And what's happening is Krishna is luring us out of the material world. You're not alone. He did this with the gopis. They get very attached to him. They love him. And all of a sudden he disappears from the Rasa Leela. And they're left lamenting, crying, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? this isn't a bad thing. It's actually it's creating an intensity and a longing for us. And what's happening is Krishna is slowly luring us, because to get that next hit again, you got to go deeper and harder. And that's what Krishna wants. And which, when we go deeper and harder and go more internal, that's taking us away from the external. We're going into our deep sense of connection. And it starts off, I mean, you can probably remember the first time you heard about Krishna consciousness. It was like, wow, I heard this really groundbreaking information, or I went to this kirtan and I felt like this, or I was chanting and I felt like this, or I met this devotee and I felt like this. I walked into a temple and got my mind blown, or I was on a pilgrimage and this happened. And you could see that sometimes people get these deep, life changing, like, I don't know how I'm going to go back to my normal life after this. But what they are is like Krishna just giving us a sampler, or like a trailer of a movie. We're not there. We're just getting that taste. And then we're left to like say, was that real? Was it a dream? Was it just like romance? Did I fabricate it? Or must I go further? And you got to go further. In the material world, they do that with drugs. I've never taken drugs, but I've heard that once you take a drug and get some super high, then you got to take like double the dose to get the same high the first time, or triple the dose. Is that true, Mara?
You're asking me.
Just joking. You've never
Innocent
taken
Mara.
drugs. She came out of the womb knitting. She's like, I've
Yeah, I've heard that you build your body builds a tolerance to it.
Yeah. And so Krishna's like that too. You get some taste. Now you got to go deeper. If you want that same taste, you go deeper. And we are getting lured out of the material world while we're in this world. It's very interesting. What do you think about that perspective, Kaustuba?
I think that's definitely a dynamic that plays out in the practice of bhakti, no doubt, right? We see it so many times. We see it. You were mentioning in the 10th canto, like the pinnacle of the Bhagavatam. We see it right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam with Narada, right, as a little boy, right? He sees Lord Vishnu and then disappears. Even Parikshit himself sees Lord Vishnu in the womb, doesn't get to see him again, for a long time. So yeah, that's there for sure. I was thinking that there's books written about this stuff, Ashley, and it's and what you're talking about and what you're experiencing, as you mentioned, it is common. It's to be expected. It's one of the stages that you pass through as you move from the beginning of your faith to the point where you reach prema, the full development, full blossoming of your love for God. And those there's a book, Madhurya Kandambini, right? Written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and it's in a simple way but very profound way, he talks about topics like this, and he describes the different stages that you go through. First there's Shraddha, you get a little faith. Hey, I think those people are onto something. Hey, that makes a lot of sense. That bhakti stuff. It seems appealing. And then sadhu sangha, then you begin to associate with people that have that faith deeper than you, and that becomes inspiring, right? And then bhajana kriya, and bhajana kriya means now I'm going to start to practice for real, right? And become purified through that practice. But it said in that book, he writes, bhajana kriya comes in two different categories: anishta and nishta. Right? Nishta means you're fixed, you're steady. Anishta means you're unsteady. And he breaks it down to there's 6 types of unsteadiness. And amongst them is one that's commonly translated as like sporadic endeavor. Like you're on one day and you're off the next day. Like that's a stage of bhakti that you'll pass through, right? Where it's like, my practice is unsteady, my focus is unsteady. Why? Ashley wrote, why, after experiencing a deep connection with Krishna, does that connection and awareness not stay open? Because we have a deep connection with Maya too. We got a deep connection, deep attachments in this world after many, many lifetimes. So it'll take steadiness, and it'll take a type of patience. This is also written by an important book If you read the Upadeshamrita, or the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada translates Rupa Goswami's spoken comments on it. It's describing the different principles that are favorable for practicing bhakti. And the first three, it's what? Utsaha, Nischayad Dharyat, that it requires being enthusiastic, it requires endeavoring with confidence, but it also requires Dharyat, being patient, right? Being patient. And so there has to be, there's a certain healthy kind of impatience, like I want it. But that has to become stronger than everything else that we want in this world, when that becomes real strong, and that it takes patience, it takes steadiness in the practice and so on. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur commented on that verse from the Upadeshamrita, and when he's commenting on patience, he says, I have a little quote from him. I think this really, he so nicely encapsulated the healthy attitude. He says, being impatient due to prolonged sadhana, right? I've been doing this for some time now, right? Some people fall from the path to the ultimate goal. Therefore, a practicing devotee who desires to achieve the goal attains that result only when they become patient. And then he says like this, here's the attitude. Krishna must be merciful to me. Krishna must be merciful to me. In other words, he'll give me pure Krishna consciousness. That's not unsteady, right? Krishna must be merciful to me either today or after 100 years or in some other birth. I will take shelter of his lotus feet with determination and never leave. Right? So that's, he says this type of dharya, patience, is most desirable for practitioners of devotional service, right? Even this lifetime is a short time. Maybe Krishna will give me pure, unalloyed bhakti. Maybe he'll bless me with that today, right? Maybe it'll take 100 years. I'm determined. Either way, I'm just going to stay steady. So I get it. I get it. It can be frustrating and concerning, right? Why am I not? Why do I feel this enthusiasm, and why do I feel this connection one day and not the next? It's natural, right? It's natural like that. Keep going, be steady, keep that faith, keep that determination, be patient, and you'll get there. That's the process. That's how it works.
Yeah, you're right on par.
What's that?
So she's right on par.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready for question number 2, Raghunath?
Hit me.
This is from our young friend from Israel, Talia.
Yeah. 20 years old. Came
Is
to
she here
India
with
with
us
us
today?
last year.
Not sure. Didn't see her.
No.
Okay, so Talia writes, I first want to thank the entire Wisdom of the Sages team and everyone who is contributing to this podcast. Thank you, Talia. She says, it gives me such hope and inspiration, and I'm deeply grateful for everything you're doing. Well, we're deeply grateful to you, Talia. Being a beginner on this path of bhakti, I am obviously very identified with the mind. And unfortunately, my mind, like many others, is filled with a lot of negativity and self-loathing. What would you recommend doing when the mind gets really crazy and it's really hard not listening to it? Although intellectually, I know it's not me. How can I go within to that deeper place in which I see my worth more related to Krishna than to the external world? When my mind tells me that I can't and that I'm not worthy of that place, that I will never get there. Negative thought loops, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And then she writes, thank you again for everything you do. I can definitely say that your podcast and association really helps me to see life and myself with a more positive perspective. And that is a lot. Okay.
And that's sort of the answer too. It's who you associate with, you develop their take on the world. On a regular basis, hearing the podcast or hearing the Bhagavatam or hearing wisdom literature. This is how we change. Showing up on a regular basis, changes us. We say, you know, I can't just get the gym clothes and the gym membership, go to the gym for one day and say, where's all my muscles? I have to show up at the gym on a regular basis. It's on a regular basis that we hear truth and wisdom. And then we start to understand my worth is not from my body. Sometimes we live in a world where the body is our currency. And then if I don't have the perfect body, I think I'm worthless. Or if I don't have the perfect car, or people sometimes say things like, man, I should be in a different place right now in my life. I'm 40 years old. I was hoping to be like this when I was 40. None of the external things of this world is our worth. Our net worth has nothing to do with our stuff. Our net worth has to do with our contribution in this world. So our contribution comes from us re-identifying with ourselves as what we actually are, which is I'm a pure spirit soul. I'm lost in this material world. And I'm going to, on a regular basis, remind myself of what I am. We do that through a process of japa meditation, of hearing sacred literature, and so many other things. So it slowly melts away. Try not to look for that external validation. It will never fulfill you anyway. And when your mind does go to that place, it's this practice on a regular basis that reminds us, why do I care so much about what other people think about my stuff, my body, my self-loathing is actually a disgrace. Don't disgrace, because you're part of God. That's where your worth is. So if there's self-loathing, you should understand I'm hating God right now. And the sad thing that will happen is I'll carry that self-loathing into fault finding of other people. And so therefore we should also remember to really start to appreciate people, really start to see the good in people, really start to, before we come up with a laundry list of things that people are doing wrong, find out what people are doing right. And this starts to help you see God in everyone. See God in everyone. See God in yourself. And see, hey, your shortcomings are your shortcomings. We get rid of those by practice. But this self-loathing, you should understand, is total Maya, because you're basing yourself not on a spirit. So when you go there, you should have a little switch that goes off, or a red flag that goes off that says, you know what? This is stinking thinking. This isn't good thinking for myself. I'm part of God. That's where my worth is coming from. What do you think, Prabhu?
I'm with you, Raghunath. I think we believe the messages of our mind, which is clouded with emotion, and those, they tend to work in loops, Yeah. So we're, she, Talia is saying she gets it. I get it. I'm not my mind. I get it. It's this other thing that has messages of its own. But it's so influential, it's hard not to be deeply affected by it.
Sometimes it's very loud in people's head too.
Yeah. And so, I think Talia is kind of, she understands it, but I came up with a little an acronym, Raghunath.
Really?
Yeah, to help when the mind gets caught in those loops.
Okay, I love acronyms.
You ready?
No, not an acronym. It's an acronym, right?
Is it an acronym or an acronym?
An acronym means something else.
Does it?
Mara, you went to school.
Acronym.
I think it's an acronym, but I'll double check.
What I said, an acronym?
Yeah.
Are you sure that's what I said? It sounds funny to me to say it now. An acronym. Maybe I was saying I came up with an acronym.
Oh, maybe that's what you said.
I'm not sure.
I came up with an acronym.
Yeah, I think that's what I said. I'm not sure. We can go back and look at the tape. I came up with an acronym. And maybe that's an acronym. Okay, came up with an acronym.
Okay.
And the acronym is ONE, Raghunath. Okay. ONE, one.
Okay. Easy to remember now.
Observe, neglect, engage.
Observe, neglect, engage. I like that.
Okay. So first one is observe, the mind, right? The mind is sending all these messages and you have to observe it. You have to say, okay, I see what you're doing. You're sending that message again, right? It's not me. It's an extra, it's like I'm looking at a computer, like I'm looking at a movie screen, like I'm looking at a television screen. I'm looking at something. The soul is looking at the mind and I'm observing it. Oh, it's bringing that loop back again, right? But it's heavy because the mind is so strong that even chemically, right, it affects the body. So it sends these feelings, through the blood, through the hormones, through the, it's like I'm not, expert at explaining all of this biologically, but I know, right?
You're not a biologist part-time?
Not even part-time.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought you were.
I haven't even played one on television, but yeah, but it does affect, it affects our body. It affects the way that we feel. It affects our heart rate. So it's hard, but yeah, observe it. Even when it's hard to make that distinction, observe it. The mind's going to say, you're a failure, right? Or like, I am a failure, right? And you're going to have to come out the other side saying, or at least to get to the other side, you have to say, it's not that I am a failure. You have to neglect that. Then you come to neglect, right? You have to get it. So it's like, today I feel like a failure. Today my mind is telling me I'm a failure, right? But not that I am a failure. And so in that neglect, you're saying, I don't listen to you anymore, right? And that can be done through aphorisms, that can be done through reflection, like I just said, reflecting on what we know. Oh, my mind is telling me I'm a failure, but it's not that I am. If I allowed the message to just ring that I am a failure, then I fail to observe and neglect. Now you're gonna say, no, my mind is telling me that I'm a failure.
Yeah,
use that as a way to reflect. Right?
Deep-rooted shame. You're not that. Even if you did something quite horrible, you're not that activity, and that can change also.
Yeah.
So you feel this way because of that, but that doesn't mean you are that. I like that, sir. Good
And people feel, oh, everybody's smarter than me, everyone's more beautiful than me, everybody's this, and but if you go into all their heads, they got these loops going too. It's just like, it's just part of our misery of the material world. Misery is called, even from within.
Yeah.
So observe and then neglect. It's telling me all these things. I don't listen to it anymore, right? I don't listen to it anymore. It's something separate. That's the observe. Neglect. I don't listen to your messages. Even they play through. I just watch them play through and from a distant perspective. So observe, neglect, and then engage it. And now you don't have to dwell on it forever. Get the mind busy, engaged with something that's deeply spiritual, something that's deeply purifying, something that'll, engage it in service, engage it in reading Bhagavatam, engage it in, in some way, hearing beautiful verses, engage it in kirtan, engage it in japa, engage it positively. And and although it seems so strong now, it'll become weaker and weaker and weaker, that mind, Now, I think with questions like this, we should always, have a little preamble about like, hey, if someone is having if these negative thought loops are so strong that it's, it's got you harming yourself in any way or contemplating that, or, then you can, really seek, help from someone, who's this is their field, helping with that. But otherwise, I think, just observe it, neglect it, and then engage it in that positive way, and it will begin to become weaker. It'll soften, it'll weaken, and it takes time. It's part of our struggle, but it's a noble struggle, and you'll get there.
Thanks, Talia. She is here. I saw her.
Oh, great.
There she is on the board. Hi, Talia. Good morning.
Hey, Talia. Oh, yeah, I see her. There we go.
She's got a whole crew of people with her listening to the show.
Oh, that's Ella.
Oh, it's Ella. It's a whole Israeli crew.
Nice. What are they over there having some falafels or something and baklava? A good time. Okay. You ready for the next question, Raghunath?
Yeah.
This is.
Did they eat falafel in Israel? Is that an Israeli food?
I think they do. Yeah.
As soon as you said it, they started laughing. So
does that mean like I was right on, or does it mean I'm totally off?
Yeah, I know.
They do eat falafel.
I think they eat falafel in Israel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard it's like the best falafel and hummus ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She maybe doesn't.
Maybe. Okay. All right. This is coming from someone named Tunny Red 108 via the Discord thread.
Tiny Red. Okay.
Tiny Red. Tiny Red writes, Tiny Red writes, Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
My spiritual father is gravely ill.
Mm.
And the guru, right?
Mm.
The doctor now tells us that this is terminal. We're all praying for Prabhu's recovery. The question is, how do we as bhaktas, as bhakti yogis, how do we as bhaktas deal with our guru dropping their bodies? He is still preaching from his hospital bed and teaching. A true Vaishnava to the last, a real bhakti yogi. We're all so worried and upset. Any advice, please? Raghunath?
Yeah, it's natural. We're gonna, and it's healthy to lament the passing of the guru. Because what it's doing is it's conjuring up the depth of your relationship. And where we say, in our material world, we say, well, don't be so attached. Be attached. Be really, really attached. And with that comes a type of pain. But this pain, this type of soka or sadness or lamentation that comes with the guru passing, it actually brings you more bhakti. It's okay to feel that sadness, feel that pain, feel that loss, feel it, and let it remind you of all the precious things that this person gave you. That doesn't make, by the way, this isn't going to make the pain go away, but you should understand we don't want to be detached. We want to be very attached to that pain and attached to that loss and lamentation. It's a healthy thing. And the grieving process is real. And fortunately, we leave in this world, hopefully recorded lectures or books or things like that we can take shelter of. But also it's good to understand that when the guru leaves, we need to take shelter of other devotees we find senior to us that can instruct us and lead us on the path, because we always live to be corrected and live to be uplifted. So we need that in our life on a regular basis. We need people who we can go to on a regular basis. I'm thinking what do you think about this? We need people like that in our life, living people who can give us some type of direction, because the world's very confusing and I can't see the truth from my vantage point all the time. I just see through the filter of my desires. So I'm so sorry you're going for this. And when a devotee does leave the world, it's always very glorious. We realize that they're not dying, is that they're leaving their body and they're going on to their next beauty. Wherever that beauty is now, it's going to even be more amplified after they leave this vehicle behind. But it's a great time to meditate and appreciate Guru's grace. It's a great time to take shelter of the devotees, just like you're doing with this question. So thank you. I wish I knew your real name instead of your
Discord thread name?
Discord handle. Did you have a CB radio in the 70s?
No.
You
I
never
had one.
a
I had
you
one.
never had a handle?
I had a CB radio as a brahmachari when we used to travel
What?
around, but we didn't have handles.
What did you say? You didn't say, "Hey, come on back there, Bhagavatananda." You got the Krishna's jewel. That could be yours, Krishna's jewel.
Yeah. So, when I heard this question, of course, I've been through this myself, losing one's guru and all of that. And, Prabhupada wrote some things about it, and I can share what he wrote.
Oh,
yeah. But I was also thinking, I once read a letter by Abraham Lincoln that he wrote to console a young lady who had lost her father. And Lincoln, he was, I kind of like him,
Yeah, these people are deep.
So I think he catches on to some of the ideas, especially at the end here. Just hear this out. You ready?
Yeah.
He wrote, "It is with deep grief that I learn of the death of your kind and brave father, and especially that it is affecting your young heart beyond what is common in such cases." She must have been freaking out.
Yeah.
In this sad world of ours, sorrow comes to all. You got it, right? I mean, he went through a lot, Abraham Lincoln, you know.
Oh yeah.
In this sad world of ours, sorrow comes to all. And to the young, it comes with bitterest agony because it takes them unawares. The older have learned to ever expect it. I'm anxious to afford some alleviation of your present distress. Perfect relief is not possible except with time. And time is an important factor in this, and we can discuss that in a second. He says, you cannot now realize that you will ever feel better. Is it not so? And yet it is a mistake. You are sure to be happy again. To know this, which is certainly true, will make you some less miserable now. I have had experience enough to know what I say, and you need to only believe it to feel better at once. And then he says this, the memory of your dear father, instead of an agony, will yet be a sad, sweet feeling in your heart of a pure and holier sort than you have known before. Okay? I like that, you know.
It's beautiful.
I think, and I think that what he's saying there is still more meaningful in the bhakti context, right? Now, Prabhupada, his dedication in the Bhagavatam, if you turn to the opening pages and see his dedication, Prabhupada dedicates it to his guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then he writes this, and this sentence is so profound and something you can hold on to, you know. He said, the spiritual master lives forever by his divine instruction, and the follower lives with him. Right? And so I like the way that you said it, Raghunath. It's kind of just like if one goes through it, which most disciples of gurus will, assuming that they outlive their guru. You can go through a period where you have that person's direct instructions to you. You have that person's physical presence in your life, and that and there's power in that. It's called vapu in Sanskrit, right? The direct physical connection. And when we're less mature in our realization, that connection feels particularly important to us. Without it, where would I be, right? It feels very, very essential. But there's a message that Prabhupada shares commonly throughout his teachings, is that there's something more profound underneath. Right? There's something more profound underneath. So therefore, it's that the vani, or the instruction, is more important than the vapu, than the direct connection. And so Prabhupada, this is a letter he wrote to a devotee named Chidananda. And he wrote, I should be returning to Los Angeles the last week of November, and I should be more than happy to see you there. So he's speaking about vapu, right? About personal, association. He says, please always try to remember me. But now he's saying, but when we're apart, right? Please always try to remember me by my teachings, and we shall always be together. Just like I have written in the first publications of Srimad Bhagavatam, the spiritual master lives forever by his divine instruction, and the disciple lives with him. He wrote that, at least where I saw it, it's in all caps. I don't know if Prabhupada wrote it in all caps or not, but he says, because I have always served my Guru Maharaj and followed his teachings, I am now even never separated from him. Sometimes Maya or illusion may come and try to interfere, but we must not falter. We must always follow the chalked out path laid down by the great acharyas. And in the end, you will see. Right? So it's like, there's something deeper to be felt and understood. And the separation, although it's painful, in fact, it opens up the door to that in a way, in a special way, right? That when this person leaves, it will call upon you to go to hold on to those instructions in a deeper way. That memory of those instructions. There's a beautiful early on in the Bhagavatam when Arjuna You know, when Krishna leaves and Arjuna's feeling despondent, he's like, he's lost all his Shakti. He's depressed. Yudhishthira is looking at him. What's the matter with you? What have you done wrong? I'm just looking at your face. I can see something's really, and you know, is it this? Is it that? He lists all these different kind of events or behaviors that may have made Arjuna feel that way. And then he says at the end, or could it be that Krishna has left? Right. And then Arjuna says, Krishna has left. And then he says this beautiful verse. He says, there's just one thing that's giving me life still, you know. He says it's those instructions that he gave me, right, on the battlefield, right, the Bhagavad Gita. I think back to those instructions and it's giving me life, you know. And so you can have that, you can have a deeper relationship with your guru. You could say even when, or you don't even have to say even when they've left. And so that will become another stage in the unfolding or the full blossoming of your devotion. And there's another. That doesn't mean that you won't feel pain, and it doesn't mean that you won't cry. And as a matter of fact, it said that the disciple should cry. You know, Prabhupada wrote that. I'll read a purport that he wrote about that. But I remember once that there was a devotee, young devotee, and his guru had just passed away. And the news was going around. And I was with my guru, and he wanted to be the person that told this devotee. And so he had me go and get him, and I brought him. So I was in the room, it was just the three of us. And my guru broke the news to him. And then he was just sitting there kind of just stunned, you know? And then my guru, who had been through that experience himself of losing his guru, he said to him, and I just thought it was so sensitive and knowing in what he said and the way that he said it, and even in his tone and everything. But he just said to him, it's okay that you're not crying. He said, but you will cry, like that. You don't worry, you will cry. It was like that, you know, like because it is just so shocking at first, and it's part of what this whole thing. It's one progression, you know, of your unfolding from hearing from that person, absorbing their instructions, being tutored by them in a sense, being mentored by them personally, serving them, having the opportunity to serve them personally, then losing them, feeling the distress from that, crying through that. It's all part of a purification, you know, an unfolding, and then reaching for that connection again through the instruction and holding on to that deeper, and then eventually feeling that connection more profound than even when they were there. That's kind of what the maturity of bhakti will look like. And by their leaving, it opens up the door to ripening that devotion. But I'll read this. This is from the 4th canto Bhagavatam. It's something that I've read from a few times, but this is a little just slightly earlier than what I usually read. A lot of times I've read, you know, in the story of King Puranjan.
Yeah.
It talks about how he became a woman in his next birth.
Yeah.
And then and she's a queen and he's a king. The husband is a king, and then the king dies, and she's at the funeral pyre. And then a Brahmin comes, and that Brahmin represents the Paramatma, and the Brahmin says, don't you remember me? I'm your old friend. We're far from home, you know. But before that, it talks about when the king dies. And in this story, the queen represents the soul, and the king represents the guru. Okay? And so it's talking about the guru dying. So it said the daughter of King Vidarbha, that's Puranjan now as a woman, continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture. It describes actually the depth of his realization in quite a few verses, how he realized the Paramatma and so on. And then it describes her service to him, how much she sacrifices, how much the austerities that she performs, symbolizing the service that the disciple does to the guru, how they neglect their own desires and serve selflessly, right? And then it comes to the death of the guru. The daughter of King Vidarbha continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture, until she could ascertain that he had passed away from the body. While she was serving her husband by massaging his legs, she could feel that his feet were no longer warm and could thus understand that he had already passed from the body. She felt great anxiety upon being left alone. And that's what you're feeling right now, right? Bereft of her husband's company, she felt exactly like a deer feels upon being separated from its mate. Being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of King Vidarbha began to lament, incessantly shedding tears, which soaked her breast, and crying very loudly. Okay, and then this is what Prabhupada writes. He says, figuratively, the queen is supposed to be the disciple, and the king, figuratively, the queen is supposed to be the disciple of the king, or the disciple of the guru. Thus, when the mortal body of the spiritual master expires, his disciple should cry exactly as the queen cries when the king leaves his body. However, the disciple and spiritual master are never separated, because the spiritual master always keeps company with the disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called the association of vani, meaning one's words or one's instructions. Physical presence is called vapu. As long as the spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is no longer physically existing, the disciple should serve the instructions of the spiritual master. And so this is, as you started, Raghunath, I think where you started was you said, this is natural, right? It can be scary. It can be heartbreaking. It can be painful. That's part of it too, but you must hold on to this idea that the spiritual master lives forever by their divine instruction, and the disciple lives with them. And going back to Abraham Lincoln, just the way that he phrased it, he said, the memory of your dear father, instead of an agony, will yet be a sad, sweet feeling in your heart. That sad, sweet feeling is one of the deepest feelings I believe that we can have in this world. And he said it will be a sad, sweet feeling in your heart of a purer and holier sort than you have known before. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So it's not easy, but just try to hang on to those ideas that Prabhupada shares, and you will pass through it. And there's nothing we can do except accept that that's how Krishna works. All right.
Beautiful.
Raghunath?
You are beautiful.
And you too, Raghunath.
Really? Tell me again.
You're beautiful.
Thank you. Mara?
You're beautiful.
Thank you.
Should we sing it? You are so beautiful
to me. Good to see.
Everything.
When Kastuba goes off on these squirrel tangents, that's when
well, the show's
room
over
lights
now.
up. Is that it for the show?
That's it. We're done.
Oh, all right.
No, right. We got only a couple of minutes. We got 5 minutes left.
I tell you who I had lunch with yesterday?
Sammy
and Sean Stern from Youth Brigade.
Sean Stern from the band Youth Brigade. I saw them quite a few times when they would come to New York back in 1982 or 83.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's see these
Brigade. You were Youth of Today, and they were Youth Brigade.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us on Zoom, and for joining us live on Insta. Did we go to Facebook today?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody on Facebook. Hey, we do this on a regular basis. Join us. So listen, tomorrow's Sunday. We have a guest. It's guest day. Monday we got the day off, but we're back Tuesday at 8 o'clock New York time. And if you're interested in joining the show, write to Miss Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. She'll send you to the secret codes, which act like a key of sorts to get into our secret coven.
A key of sorts.
A key of sorts. Also want to say that our Patreon numbers are going down. They're supposed to go up. They can't go down. We are a community supported We are a community supported
Our
podcast,
listenership is going up.
but our resources are
Patreon
going
support is going down.
Something's wrong here in the math. Well, if you don't think Kostuba is worth more than an oat milk latte once a month. Anyway, thank you everybody who do support us. Go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages for your community supported podcast. And we're here for you every day. Even if we get 4 hours of sleep, we're here for you. Thanks everybody for joining us on Zoom. Same thing with Zoom people. You want to join us on Zoom? We love doing Zoom. People joining us on Zoom because we get to see you. We get to know you. I greet everybody personally every morning. Go to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com and Mara will send you the codes to join us. I sometimes give you a nickname, perhaps even a nickname you don't even want. And then it sticks and everybody calls you that forever. It's like junior high school. Yeah, so I went to Pure Food and Wine. I had no wine. And I went
to... food actually pure?
I think it was plant
pure.
food and wine.
Oh, it's Plant Food and Wine.
Yeah.
Plant Food and Wine. That's Matthew Kinney's restaurant.
How do you plant wine? I don't see. Plant food and wine?
You know who works there? Our good friend Scott Weingart from Texas is the reason. He's a chef there.
You're
And I went to a
dropping
place
names
called-
left and right right here. You go to L.A. I told you he would change
LA
when
effect.
I told you he would change when he went to L.A.
I'm just giving some love out to our people. And then
just give him the love, baby. Yeah.
let's give love, Kate. And then I went to Monty's in Culver City, which is right near the temple. After I did this, did I mention I did a stud song, or did I just say that
No, you
before
said
the show started?
you're doing Ramayana with Kumi.
With Kumi, yeah, it was really nice. Oh, Mara.
It's gonna be different when he comes back, Mara.
Yes. He's gonna be in that like LA executive
LA.
mode that
Oh,
he
yeah,
gets
yeah.
into.
You guys.
They say, Mara, baby, no time for that right now.
Look at history, guys. I've been here like in deep reflection. You think I'm just being all LA external? I'm in deep reflection. This is where the first part of my, being a dad was here in LA. It's all coming back. You realize that time is fleeting. I've had a great depth of inspiration, and I feel like Krishna is like pushing me through the earth like something sprouts out of the earth. You got to let go of an old identity. This is sort of my old identity living in LA. I used to teach in LA.
Oh, he's going into
yesterday.
the past, Mara. He's wallowing in the past.
Not wallowing.
I used to teach here. Right over there.
Can't you hear what I'm saying? I'm saying Krishna's making me realize the temporality of this world.
Awesome. That's great. That's
sharing deep realizations with you.
Okay.